Hello, welcome to episode 179 of the Epic Film Challenge 2, 1001 Movies You Must See Before You Die. 1953's The Big Heat, directed by Fritz Lang, the incredible filmmaker from Germany, or he was Austrian originally, became a German citizen, I believe, and then fled Germany in the 30s when he was asked to be a part of the German film industry as run by the Nazis. So he hightailed it out of Germany, went to America, and started making films in Hollywood, where he spent the rest of his life. I hadn't seen any of his sound films, or at least his sound films from America before, so this is my first foray into Fritz Lang in his later years. Of course, for me, one of the greatest filmmakers of all time, just looking purely at the 1920s, some of the greatest films of all time: Metropolis, Woman in the Moon, Spies. Well, I guess some of them aren't as lofty and fantastic as Metropolis. Die Nibelungen is a masterpiece. M is a masterpiece. You know, just an incredible filmmaker. This was completely different from his silent work. It's not as visually interesting. It's fairly static in a way, but it's shot well, and it's more about this story, which is told very economically, I have to say. I was watching the Tony Raines piece on the Blu-ray that accompanies the film, and he was saying the same thing about how there are scenes that, you know, could have been in the film if a pedestrian filmmaker was making it, but Fritz Lang kind of just trusts the audience to kind of put two and two together. I mean, there's a character in the film who has one scene, and later on she appears in a way that's helping another character, and so you could have had a scene where you find out why she's helping that character, but you can just put it together if you watch that first scene with close attention, you know. The story of the film, and it's very much a film noir piece, is about a guy who kills himself at the very beginning, and we see the very first shot of the film is a gun being lifted up from a desk. We hear a gunshot and a body kind of slump forward, and his wife finds the body. We follow a police detective played by Glenn Ford, who was probably most well known for the film Gilda, which we've already talked about, and he's great in Gilda. He might be even better here with the journey that his character goes on. In fact, probably not. He probably has a more complex journey in Gilda, but I thought he was fantastic in this film. I really enjoyed Glenn Ford's performance and his transformation as well, because he gets involved in this case, and it's very layered. There's a lot of things going on. There's this very intricate crime ring going on in the city, and he gets involved in it, and he gets told by, you know, anonymous callers, you know, keep your nose out of this, stay out of this one. But he's determined to stick to his job and find out, you know, what's going on, to the detriment of his own safety. And ultimately, and I don't know if this really spoils things, if you want to go into this film and you're interested, you don't want to be spoiled any detail, then skip this video. I haven't really got too much to say about it anyway. But his wife gets murdered. So he now is on this revenge trip, right? This is a revenge movie, it really is. And I didn't see it coming whatsoever. It's about 30 minutes into the film. He's with his daughter, you know, he's very much this typical family man, and this big explosion goes off outside. It was meant for him, and his wife gets killed in the driveway, and it's just like, holy shit. And the film has a couple of those moments, you know, these extreme moments of violence, and it's always off screen as well. So it might seem like, oh, there's a woman who gets blown up in a car, and there's a woman whose face gets half burnt off with a pot of coffee, but you never see these things. You kind of, you hear them, and they're implied, and that almost makes them more impactful. Gloria Grahame plays a woman who is hanging out with the bad guys of the movie. She's involved in this crime ring purely by association. You know, she's just there to be one of the girls that they have there to, you know, just to be around and stuff, the trophy women. And she, you know, she has a good heart, but she's fallen in with the wrong people. And Glenn Ford's character comes across her, and so they have an interesting relationship that develops throughout the second part of the film. I thought that Gloria Grahame was a lot better in the film noir In a Lonely Place with Humphrey Bogart, but here she's kind of spotty. There's some scenes where she's great, there's some scenes where I just feel like I'm watching an actor, and so it's kind of disappointing. But her character has an interesting arc as well. But when Glenn Ford is just on this rampage of revenge, and, you know, he gets his police, you know, license rescinded and everything, and there's a great moment where they say, hey, you're going to need to give us your pistol as well, and he's like, hey, this is my pistol, bought and paid for, you know. Some great lines in this film, very, very nice dialogue. A really good scene where he goes to this used car dealership to find out about this guy, and the guy who works there is giving him nothing, and Glenn Ford's like, look, my wife got killed because of this, I need to find out what happened. And you see this kind of secretary who seems like a very nice woman because she's trying to get involved, but she decides against it. It's a very subtle moment where she's about to say something and she decides not to. So Glenn Ford leaves, he's got nothing, and then she comes out and she says, let me tell you, you know, and I really liked her character, you know, someone who is involved on the wrong side of the tracks, but she's trying to do the right thing, and so I liked that. And I love how the scene was framed, because she's behind the chain link fence of the car dealership, and Glenn Ford's on the other side, and it's the separation between these two characters, and she's kind of trapped in that world, but she's still trying to break through it and to do the right thing. I really like that scene, and how her information leads him on to the next part. But yeah, overall, you know, it's directed well. It really is so different from Fritz Lang's earlier work. It's very much more about the characters. The characters are a bit more well-rounded than his silent films, I suppose, where they're more caricatures and so on. But it doesn't feel like a Fritz Lang film. But nevertheless, it's a very good film. I enjoyed it quite a lot. There's some really good scenes. Lee Marvin, a very young Lee Marvin, is one of the key villainous figures of the film. Overall, though, I just feel like it wasn't great. It was very good. I think I rated it like 4 out of 5. Like, it's really strong. It's just, there's not much wrong with it, but it doesn't reach that kind of higher echelon. There's a couple of moments in the film where people get shot, and it's that kind of and they fall over, and you don't see any like squib going off. It's just this very theatrical, and I kind of really hate that in films. I know it's a sign of the times, and especially a sign of the censors in, you know, the 1950s and earlier and so on, once the kind of code got involved and film censorship became a thing in the 30s. But I just, you know, it kind of drags you out of the film when you see someone get shot and they're like, and you can tell there's no bullet wound or anything, and they fall over, you know. It kind of drags you down a little bit. I think it depends on when you see it. You know, if I saw it when I was a kid, I'd probably think, oh wow, you know, and wouldn't think too much of it. But seeing it now, just, I don't know, there was something about it that didn't reach the next level. So is it a film you should see before you die? Probably not, I'd say, but I thought it was really good, and I definitely watch it again someday. It just, again, I'm repeating myself, it didn't reach the next level, so it is what it is, and my thoughts might change, as always, with my next viewing, but I'd recommend it. If you're a fan of Fritz Lang, definitely check it out. If you're a fan of film noir, definitely check it out. But overall, it's not an essential. So, thanks for watching. If you've seen the film, let me know your thoughts down below, or any of other Fritz Lang's American films. I'd like to hear thoughts on that. If there's better ones out there I could check out, because I'm still intrigued to see more of his sound work. You know, I'm sure that some of his brilliance is still in a lot of those films, but this one, not so much. And it's kind of a really hard comparison to make when you look back at some of the just staggering monumental work he did earlier on in his career. You look at M, which is just a masterpiece, you know. They kind of, you can't help but compare when you're looking at a filmmaker and he's made films that were so much better, and when you look at a really good film he made, it kind of dampens it just a little bit, but there's a lot of good things in The Big Heat, and it's a very good film. So thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.